Okay, welcome to the October 3rd meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners with joint meeting of the Recreation Board. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers.
Here.
Mr. Fox.
Here.
Mrs. Westfall. Here. Mr. Hobart.
Here.
Okay, we'll note the absence of the rest of the Recreation Department members. We have the minutes of our July 19th meeting, the joint meeting. The Park Board's already approved that. We have our September 5th, 2017 Park Board meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions of those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it stands accepted. Jeremy, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Do you have anything to add to your report, sir?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Any questions of our park superintendent? We will tell you that the park department is having its budget meeting at 2:30 on Thursday. If either one of you two want to be there, you can. I've got to leave at 3:30, but I'll be there for the first hour.
Okay.
I've already given my condolences to Ken because I'm not going to be there before his. So, okay. Mr. Seiler, anything to add to your written report?
No, sir. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Seiler? Well, gee, we're just getting this done real quick. Mr. Green, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add to the report.
Oh, my goodness.
Just like to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Really, this weather that we've been having the last couple of months has been fantastic for our rounds of golf this year. Just the month of August and September alone, we're over 1,000 rounds ahead of last year,
Good.
just for those 2 months. So it just goes to show you when you have good weather, people will play, and that is the equivalent of about $30,000 extra.
Super.
So quite a bit for 2 months.
Like I said.
Now, obviously, it doesn't necessarily make up for March, April, and May, and June, but it was nice to have those 2 months because it really made a pretty big difference. And it actually put us ahead of last year, so.
Good.
So hopefully the weather will continue, and October will be the same way.
Great. Any other questions of our golf course superintendent? Okay, thank you. I have a planning commission report, but it's in the form of Mr. Dando's presentation, I would imagine. In fact, that's going to be the next matter on the agenda. Mr. Dando, you want to come forward and give us your presentation concerning the fees and lieu issue?
Yes, I'm Jim Dando, standing in for Tim Davis, who was out of town today. What you have is an application for the payment of fees in lieu instead of a parkland dedication. This is a new subdivision application, but actually it dates back to 1990. The Fox Harbor subdivision west of Kings Chapel was started back at that time, and it was designed with fees in lieu because of the proximity of the Kings Chapel Park, which also includes a community center that houses some recreation department programs as well. So the plan back in 1990 at least was for this subdivision to be done with fees in lieu and then to be developed for single-family houses in the remainder of the ground. The property has changed hands, and the new owner is planning to just pick up where the old one left off back in the 1990s. So they'd like to continue the same pattern and do fees in lieu. Of course, that would be under 2017 fees rather than 1990 fees.
And how much are we talking about?
Don't know the exact number. I think it depends on exactly how the property will lay out. There is a question of some of the sizes in the zoning code have changed, so there may be some adjustments in the number of lots.
Okay. Refresh my memory. When we take fees in lieu, does that go to the capital improvements budget for the park department, or does it go to the general reserves? Or you don't know?
I do not know.
Mrs. Knight, how you doing?
I'm well, how are you?
Good. Would you like to address that question?
We'll let the expert.
Mr. McGraw suggested I be quiet.
Yeah, he says that to a lot of his clients.
My understanding, it goes into the PNR Capital Improvement Fund.
It does?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Unless the auditor determines to put just a percentage of it in.
Okay.
Okay.
And you don't have any information as to what the amount is that we're accepting here, do you?
No, sir, I would not.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions of either Mr. Dando or Mrs. Knight? Okay, we've been requested for a recommendation. This is a decision the planning commission makes at its next meeting. Mr. Dando, is that correct?
I would like to add that once the plat is designed and ready to come to Planning Commission, then we'll have an exact number for you on those dollars.
It would have been nice to have it here, however, so that we can decide whether or not we want to accept $10.57 or $100,000 in exchange for the park property. Do you have any idea how much acreage we would be allowed underneath the current scenario?
No. Again, it depends on the number of lots that would be developed.
Yeah.
And that's to be determined.
So you're asking for a recommendation from the park board, and we don't know the information. We don't know the amount of acreage, we don't know the amount of fees.
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you. That's most helpful. Okay. Do you guys want to do anything? You know, I just assume table this matter until we have the answer to those questions.
Yeah.
The amount of acreage. My personal opinion is we have King's Chapel out there. It's a nice park. It's got a community room, and that can service these lots. But without knowing the information, we don't know what we're giving up. You know, if fees and lieu come out and it's a few $1,000s, why would we take 5 acres of property out there? You know, those are exaggerations. But why wouldn't we take a look at what the exact amounts are? So I'll make the motion to go ahead and table this matter until such time as staff can get us more information.
I second that.
Motion is second. There's no discussion on the motion to table. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall?
Yes.
Okay, Jim, the matter's tabled. If you can come back to the next park board meeting with the information, that'd be great. Then we can make an informed decision. Thank you. Okay, next, Mr. Silo, you say you didn't have anything else for your written report, but you do have something to bring to the park board today.
Yes, this is a document that between the Park and Recreation Departments we developed several years back, and we typically revisit this every 2, 3, 4 years just to make sure that our fees are in line with where they should be. So what you have here, and it's probably, do you have a color copy of the document?
We do.
Okay, very good. So the items that are in red are the revisions to the policy. This is for groups that are looking to utilize our fields, primarily baseball and soccer, football, are probably the most prevalent of uses in this particular scenario. So on the first page, there's really just one addition, and that is that we've been working in conjunction with the Visitors Bureau and trying to maybe secure some more outside tournaments that would bring visitors to the city of Troy, so we wanted to add a category that would cover those folks. And then on page 2, the user fees, under user fees, we've added that category, category F, that would cover that particular type of group or user group, and the fees for them to use the different types of fields that we have. And then after discussing the fees that we're charging related to light fees, field lining fees, and those type of things with Jeremy, if you look at the bottom of page 2 under the lighting fees, we're looking to increase those fees very slightly. They were at $20 per game. We're looking to increase those to $25 per game. We're also looking to add a scoreboard usage fee of $5 per game. We've not had that particular fee in place to this point. And then at the top of page 3, which is typically where we generate the most, I guess if you want to call it revenue from the use of our fields, but also incur the greatest expense, and that's related to field prep and field lining. So we've increased those fees in order to cover the costs related to a product that Jeremy uses for lining of fields, I'm sorry. So lime for baseball and softball fields, and also paint for striping of football and soccer fields. So an initial lining, for example, is more than a reline because of the fact that it takes them a considerable amount of more time to lay out the field to start with. So listed in the first one there, U10 soccer field, initial lining of $65, that used to be $50. And then to then reline those, which they typically do about every 2 weeks, would now be $30 instead of $20. The next one down, a full-size soccer field, we'd be increasing from 50 to 65. And the reline used to be 25, we're increasing that to 35. Football field initial lining is going from 65 to 80, and then a reline is going from 35 to 45. And then baseball field linings, including the field prep, is $20 per field per lining, and it used to be $15. So again, these fees have been determined based upon the staffing costs that Jeremy had indicated, along with the product that he uses to prep these fields.
Good.
And then we've got the costs related to field dry materials if they're used. So for example, the park department preps the field during the day, and in order for that field to remain usable that evening, and a group uses field dry that's there at the field itself, there would be a cost incurred to utilize that material, since Jeremy's department incurs a cost for that. And then the other lining fees, if you go down a little bit further under that national sanction tournaments, where there may be a tournament come in where they need linings done over the course of the tournament, as opposed to it just being lined at the beginning of the weekend and letting it stay that way throughout the weekend. It wouldn't necessarily be playable. There's a fee associated with that of $40 per lining, which includes all three of the, up to 3 fields, which would be the most at any particular location, which would be Duke Park. Outside of that, those are really, for the most part, the significant changes related to the field use policy. What we pretty much have is if there's a user group that's interested in using our fields, we have them fill out this application. And this just helps us in terms of just, I guess, being able to maintain some order related to use of the fields. We only schedule use of the fields for game use only, not for practice use. But again, this helps us to just kind of maintain some order as to who we have using the fields and when.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. This falls right in line. We checked with, Ally did check with Vandalia and some other areas, all the way up to Hilliard, and to give us kind of a range of what other cities are charging. Vandalia does, we fall really close in line with what Vandalia is currently charging for their field use fees and lining fees. And again, this covers our initial costs for material and labor, and we realized when we reevaluated that with the additional cost of material now and labor, we weren't quite recouping some of those costs. So this helps get us closer to what our actual expense is. So we feel it's really in line with what's costing the city, as well as what other cities are charging their user groups.
Good. And we don't want to lose our sovereign immunity, and by doing that, we retain our sovereign immunity. We can't profit from it, and so this is a good discussion.
We do, there are particular user groups that do have to pay for use of the fields. If you look there on the second page, the category D, E, and F user groups. However, when we do that, we do require them to provide us with their certificate of insurance that's approved through Miami Valley Risk Management.
Okay. Mr. Hobart, is the Recreation Department Association Board, have they considered this already, or
No, we have not
Not
yet.
yet.
We'll take that up at our next
next meeting?
meeting, yes.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Seiler, on this issue?
I believe
You
that
want it
covers
approved by this board
the
today,
changes.
right?
Yes, that was the plan, to bring it to the park board today and then to the rec board at their next meeting.
Well, personally, I believe that updating the figures are good, and they seem to be reasonable and taking into due consideration for the costs. Do one of you have any comments, any questions of Ken on the matter?
Yeah, I'm just looking through the red text here. In category F, it says these tournaments can be scheduled prior to the first business day of the year. Does that mean they need to be scheduled before January 1?
Typically, so for example, there's some softball and baseball tournaments for next year that are already putting together their schedules for 2018, and so that's why there's a need for a longer period of time prior to the actual event taking place.
So, I guess I'm confused why we have this. What's the point of having the sentence? Like, normally you don't let anyone schedule it until after Jan 1 of that year? Is that
That's
it?
typically the case, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
So you're making an exception for the bigger ones?
Yeah, and we're working this around what we kind of have already become accustomed to, what all of our local user groups are scheduling. So we would be scheduling those around something that's already been taking place in prior years.
Good question.
Is there any, is there any plans, any interest for some national tournaments to come here right now?
We met with NSA, National Softball Association, a few weeks back, and they're just looking to potentially build a few tournaments here at Duke Park, both softball and youth baseball as well. And so it somewhat was initiated by the Miami County Visitors Bureau in conjunction with our department to try to bring people to Miami County.
Good. And then the fees are more of the hourly rate that you would charge, that your crew charges, Jeremy, plus the material needed to be used, that's it?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
There did seem to be a lot of interest when NSA was here. I think they really liked the facilities at Duke Park, were impressed with that, and indicated that they'd be interested in returning.
What's not to like?
So-
And that's Duke Park as it is, not with an
Correct.
expanded
Yeah,
Duke Park?
Existing fields.
Wow.
Okay, any other questions? Let's take action on it, one way or the other, for the adoption of the Recreation and Park Department's athletic field use policy. Is there a motion to approve or not?
Motion to approve.
Is a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second that.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers?
Yes,
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall?
Yes.
it stands approved. Thank you, Mr. Seiler. Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the new business. However, I know that there are another new business in the audience. Mr. McGraw, I think you were going to make a presentation today. Would you mind coming forward, please? And if you would state your name and address just for the record, please. Anybody that's speaking.
My name is Bill McGraw. I reside at 286 South Dorset Road, Troy. I'm Al Capper's law partner. Joyfully so. I've been working on a project along with the Acorn Society of Troy for creating 3 statues that would feature figures prominent in Troy's aviation history, and we call them aviation heroes or pioneers in our discussions. One of them is Clayton Bruckner, member of the National Aviation Hall of Fame. Another is Robert Hartzell, father of Tom Hartzell, who is here today, and he is an enshrinee in 2015 in the National Aviation Hall of Fame. The other is Nancy Curry, Greg, who is our Troy High School astronaut, still with the NASA program, and has flown 4 missions on the space shuttle, and is well known now. She's working in the safety engineering field for NASA. And so about 4 years ago, Tom Hartzell and I started actively working on this project, took it to the Acorn Foundation, the Acorn Society of the Troy Foundation, got pledges of money from them, and then we also got pledges of money from Hartzell family members, from the Duke Foundation, from the Troy Foundation, from Tom and Pat Robinson Fund of the Troy Foundation, and others. It's all privately funded, and the funding is now totally secured for the statues, as well as a proposed site plan, which is what we have for you all. I think Al has distributed to some of you. I have one extra copy of the site plan, which has been developed by Bruns Construction, and Steve Bruns is here. We propose to put this in a place that is immediately north of the senior citizens parking lot. south of the Michael Bayshore sculpture, and kind of almost immediately adjacent to Market Street. And it is a site plan that we designed to be permanent, nice, low maintenance other than for the plantings, and lit with downlighting at night. And we had preliminarily met with Mayor Beamish and Patrick Titterington. I think Jeremy was there, as well as Al Cappers, to kind of just scope out the site and see what was possible. There was a dead tree that came out in the meantime, and so that's been removed. So what you see is the result of Steve Brunn's guy's work, and it's designed to be, statues are 8 foot in height, designed to be put on 2-foot pedestals or something thereabouts.
32-inch pedestals.
And handicapped accessible. We did provide improvement for a handicapped parking space next to it, as you can see on the light. There's also a light pole that we can pull electricity off of, which we talked to Jeremy about, so that they could be lit at night. The only permanent maintenance for the site would be the plantings, and we've shown them just by illustration. This is not final in any way, and it would obviously be with the input of the park personnel and all of you. So these materials, Steve, you may want to talk about the materials of the wall and the ground. They're designed to be long-lasting.
Yes, the walls, and by the way, it's Steve runs General Contracting, 3050 Tip Colesville Road. The walls are concrete, and then they're covered with the limestone and pavers. The floor itself is all pavers except with a concrete band around it to hold everything together, because we're looking for something very long-term. The columns that hold the sculptures are concrete with form liners, and then it's a concrete cap. So we made this thing that would be very durable, very easy to maintain. Of course, the only thing, like Bill said, you still have to maintain the plantings, but everything else should be pretty much take care of itself. Change a few bulbs now and then. That's the only thing we've seen as a maintenance issue.
No skateboard possibilities, right? Too high?
We talked about that.
Yeah, we did, and we tried to design where they wouldn't use it. I'm not saying they won't find a way.
I mean, we had to have a rampway for handicap accessibility, so you can't really
Yeah.
totally block it off from that. You can't elevate it and skateboarders appear to be able to elevate on their own, even if there's no ramp.
Any questions of the applicants?
Yes, so we have 3 individuals that'll be recognized there, and I don't know my Troy aviation history. Is there a potential that some years down the road, someone else could get inducted into the Aviation Hall of Fame, where is it designed, spaced out, that if someone else gets added in the future?
Well, if you'd let us take out a tree, going the other way, we could add a 4th one, but there is a tree kind of
And it shows
in the
on
area. It shows on the drawing. So, but yeah, I would believe it would be possible to expand the site to the north, not the south, because you got the driveway, you got the entrance to the senior citizens. But yeah, that would be, gee, wouldn't we all like that? I mean, Troy, for the small town of Troy to have 2 National Aviation Hall of Fame members, it's really extraordinary. Particularly if you go on the site and see who's in the National Aviation Hall of Fame. Of course, it starts with the Wright brothers. Sidelight, Orville Wright was the one that convinced Robert Hartzell, Tom's father, to go into the propeller business in 1917. It's the 100th anniversary of Hartzell Propeller that he started in 1917, and there was just this celebration some time ago. Tom also came up with the idea that he feels that once this is completed and up, that it could be designated as a point of interest or stop on the national...
On the Aviation Trail, which runs from Middletown up to Wapakoneta, and it includes the Air Force Museum and a lot of aviation sites. And I'm sure this could be designated as a stopover, and I think bring a lot of visitors into Troy, would stop at Waco, et cetera. So I could be a big asset.
Robert Hartzell lived in Troy, founded Hartzell Propeller, and located in Piqua, but he lived right on Peters Road
Right,
at the turn.
right next to Waco
Yeah.
facility.
Right next to where the Waco plant was. And of course, the Waco Weaver Aircraft Company, then abbreviated to Waco, came here. And then one of the little side lights is the city of Troy purchased 115 acres of land where Archer Drive is now to keep the company here. And so it was economic development way back in the day. And so there's a great aviation history here. We hope it'll serve as inspiration for others. When we have the dedication, I think Nancy Gregg will be here. She's very interested in the STEM curriculum for high school students, particularly high school women. And so she has a keen interest in continuing to promote that. So she was actually here about a year ago to kind of help tweak her statue, the clay model of her statue. She met with sculptor Mike Major, who is the sculptor for this project, originally from Pleasant Hill, now from Urbana. Has done Mr. Duke at the Duke Park, and has done Woody Hayes and William Tecumseh Sherman, and the 11-foot Lincoln down on Courthouse Plaza is his most recent one. So.
Okay, you're asking for approval of this to be placed on park property.
Yes, sir.
And it is going to be there's no deviation that's going to be taking place from this.
The only thing we might add is a bench. We talked about adding a bench on the actual site, but the actual footprint will be as it's portrayed.
So if we were to offer approval of this today, we'd be approving this site plan.
Yes, sir.
And that would not have any problem with anything here in the future.
We would hope not.
Okay. Mr. Drake, have you reviewed this? Do you have any problem with the plan?
I don't have any problems at all, sir.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? Any questions of ours? Yes.
No, looks great.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the plan, if you would.
Motion to approve this site plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? The only thing I might add is that if there are any changes, we'll have to have those coordinated with our park superintendent for location. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers.
Yes.
Mr. Fox.
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall.
Yes.
Okay, it's approved. Just go ahead and coordinate with Mr. Drake the installation, if you would, please, Mr. Bruns.
Yep.
And thank you very much, and thank to the Acorn Society.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor, I see you back there. Do you have anything to come before the commissions?
Not this time, just to support what they have prepared to do for the history of Troy and aviation, and I just sincerely support them.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, did you want to address the commission today? I see you. Come on, you've got your hand up. Come on up. We'll need to have your name and address, please.
Anna Rossiter, 117 South Monroe.
117 South what?
South Monroe.
Monroe.
I have been to the city council meeting earlier. We're trying to figure out how to get a playground structure put at the park on McKagan Race. We have a group of moms that are willing to do the fundraising. We don't want the city to have to pay for the equipment, but we'd emailed Mr. Drake and were informed that it was designated as a green space or a passive place to do with the sister city in Japan, and something that Mr. Beamish had wanted, and that because of that, we wouldn't be able to go forward. So we were just trying to figure out what to be done to get that talked about, at least by you guys, maybe changed.
Sure.
So we're not trying to take up, I mean, it's a 3-acre park. We just want like 40 by 40 feet to put some slides and a swing, like professional. There's so many grants and things available out there to pay for the equipment. But until the city works, unless we can work with the city, we're stuck. So I just kind of want to throw that out there. Like I said, I'd originally talked to Mr. Drake, got an email back, it was thrown back to city council, went and talked there, and they threw me back here. So I'm just kind of,
It rolls downhill.
yeah,
Mr.
bouncing around.
About how much does a nice playground set cost? Just,
We're looking like,
Roughly, probably 25,000.
Yeah.
I thought we put in like $50,000 one in Westbrook.
Yeah, that's a lot bigger than I think what they're.
yeah, the ones we're looking at, they're about 20, yeah, like you said, between,
30.
yeah.
If you're talking slides and swing set, the structure at Westbrook was a lot more involved with the shade structure, some jungle gym type apparatus that are added to that as well, and spiral slides. So every piece that you add to that, the bigger the footprint gets, the more the cost goes up. So I'm thinking probably for what they're looking at, that 20 to 30,000 range.
Okay. Well, to answer your question, the park department, park board has not taken any action at all to retain that as just green space.
Okay,
Now, that being said, if the mayor has indicated that he wants that just as green space, he's the one that appoints us,
Yeah.
okay? So,
that's kind of where well, that's why I went to city council first.
sure.
You know, because I didn't even know if he was, it's like I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but,
Right. My personal opinion is the Board of Park Commissioners is interested in active play,
yeah,
okay? That is something that would be qualified for active play. The McCaig Race Park is something that has been green space for some time. It's already being used as a walking trail. That's kind of active play. It's got storyboards from the library there. It's got the Japanese maples, I think they are, which kind of ties in
Cherry tree, yeah.
our Japanese heritage friends. And we have
There's one gazebo.
We've got some other display items out there. I don't know, my personal opinion, I don't know that there'd be a problem with us approving a recreational play set of nature. You need to talk to that guy back there, though, to make sure he's on board with it, because he's not going to appoint us again if we go against what his wishes are.
Yeah.
Okay? That doesn't mean we can't get it done the first time, but we're going to be looking behind our backs otherwise. So, do you guys have any thoughts about what you're thinking?
No, and I'll admit that might be one of the few parks out of the 27-ish or so that we have that
doesn't have anything.
I haven't really been all the way through. We do a tour each year, and that hasn't been on my list yet, so I'll be checking that out next year, but I can definitely go through there and see it. And yeah, it seems like most of them do have that in place that in there, so
It just kind of, as the neighborhood, it just kind of feels like it's just been a forgotten spot, which we do, I mean, nothing against the trail and like you said, the storyboard and all that's wonderful, but as a mom, it'd be nice to have some swings. The area's there, it just seems kind of like a wasted.
What does the Lincoln Center have now?
They have a small playground in the back of the building, yeah.
And then we've got a school that's in close location too.
Two of mine go to Haywood, but during the day, you're not allowed on the property with your children. So if you have anyone, that's not in school, it's useless. You can't use it unless school's out.
We also have the Haywood Ball Diamonds across from Haywood that is public property.
Yes.
That you're permitted to use during the day.
But there's no equipment there at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah.
if you're interested in using that facility to erect equipment and can get past the fundraising, then that might be an alternative.
Oh, okay, yeah. To get past the fundraising, what do you mean?
If you can raise the funds to put it in. Because we don't have that in our budget for additional playground equipment.
Yes, well, that's what we fully assumed that you did. I mean, we're trying to get the money for that. It was just a matter, so we can raise the money for the play set. It was just a matter of.
Yeah, if you were to take a look at that setting instead of the setting out at McCaig Race, that might be something that might be more palatable to this administration.
Okay.
to keep the McKay Grace green space
Yeah.
without a playground, that's
Right.
why you're suggesting that.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like maybe I need to interject just a little bit, because I did respond an email back to her.
You very quick, yeah, nothing
And I-
against you.
Yeah, no,
for
and,
this.
and that was, I guess that's kind of been my understanding for a long time since the inception of that park was passive green space as a commemoration with our sister city in Japan. And so I responded back saying that, we wanted to honor that and keep that as passive green space. Now, whether we want to, talk about that and maybe change that, I'm not aware of that at this point, and not aware that the mayor was ready to or wanted to do that. So that's where I thought we wanted to keep it that way. We did add the storybook walk, but that's still very passive.
Well,
for the
the
kids.
passive green space issue was never adopted by this board.
Okay.
Just to let you know.
Right.
We never adopted that. There may be a rationale behind that, however, because that was a dump before it was a park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it might be that it was to be retained as passive green space because we didn't want the surface of the property punctured.
There was
Because
another
of-
member that had brought that up to me because Robin Oda was talking about wanting to do she goes, well, what about bathrooms? And I said, well, I don't know. And I heard it was a lot, and then talked to one of the people that works at the Parks and Recs, and they told us the same thing. They said there wouldn't be an issue with putting a smaller play structure there, but there wouldn't be, you couldn't do bathrooms or drinking fountains or anything like that because of the crust
Yeah.
issue. It would open up a whole nother
Right.
level of environmental type of stuff that nobody wants to get.
Exactly.
I don't even want to get into that, so.
Okay, so, anything else, Jeremy?
That's all.
Any other comments?
I'm just a little curious on the history of the passive green space, on when did that start and why that recommendation's out there.
This became a park when?
1998.
1998.
I looked at it, yeah. Oh, I looked it all up, yeah.
It was purchased by the Acorn Society, I think, from ITW Hobart Corporation. Hobart Corporation had used it in the past to dump filler metals or something from their plant. And I'm not sure if the entire lot was used for that or just that if you walk onto the lot, the part next to McCaig is kind of a little higher than the rest of it. I think it's down in the rest of it, down towards Race, where the dump was. But they then went ahead and put a cap on it, a material cap, and we seeded it and took care of it and stuff like that. As far as green space, I don't know if that's the rationale to keep it that way or not. We've just never had any money to go ahead and try to improve that other than a walking trail, and we put a gazebo out there. So,
I have been by it several times, and I've seen lots of kids riding their bikes around.
My kids learned how to ride their bikes there, yeah. I mean, it's great. It's just one of those where, like I said, as a neighborhood, and we've walked around and talked to 50 families around. It just kind of was it's just there, the city just never got around to putting equipment there. And then when we had emailed him, and we're like, well, we'll raise the money for it. And then heard about the passive green space, and it was kind of whereas me, I'm very ego. I love some green space. I don't have anything against that. It's just one of those where it's big enough that I think that you could put something, and still have plenty of room for the football games and all that kind of stuff that kids do. My husband, we go out and play kickball with the neighbors, and I'm not trying to take away from that. It's just,
Right, it seems to have plenty of space.
like I said, it's 3 acres. So something smaller up towards the gazebo, which is
on the McCaig side of the
on the McKeg side of it, not on the race side, something on the McKeg side. And then just
Yeah.
keep the race side completely open. Like I said, we play kickball and stuff over there, so,
I'll tell you what, why don't you make an appointment with our good mayor
okay,
and see whether or not there is a site selection in that park that he might be comfortable with.
okay.
And then we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. Like I said, we're looking for where to go
Right.
from here, so.
Well, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I put you on the spot. Mrs. Knight, do you have anything you want to come before the commission?
No, thank you.
Anybody else have anything they want to bring to the commission's attention? Commission members have anything they want to discuss? Marty, you have anything you want to take care of?
We're good.
Yeah, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn then. Is
Motion to adjourn.
there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.